This is the week where House Democrats seem not to be able to agree on much of anything when it comes to the well-being of Americans, but when it came to the well-being of Israel, it was not a problem. Just 4 months after Israel waged an all-out assault on the people of East Jerusalem, in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then in Gaza, killing 129 people, the House authorized an additional $1 billion to Israel's rocket defense system, the Iron Dome, also my nickname for my anti-vax hairdresser. Progressives had successfully taken out the funding from a short-term government bill. So, like, they passed this short-term funding bill for the government, and the Iron Dome funding was snuck into that. They delinked that successfully.
I thought you were going to say the Iron Dome was what it's called when Ultron gives you a blowjob.
Or when...
technically Vibranium Dome, but...
Hell yeah.
What's up, Marvel fans?
That's good. You come in like 15 seconds flat. No. So I was getting into the wonky part, NATO. Oh my God.
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
The reason this bill was even existed is because it was separated off from this other emergency funding bill. So they were like, well, we have to fund Israel somehow. So even though we already do, let's pass this thing. Now, the vote succeeded, so not even close. 420 congresspeople in favor, 9 against. So 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against. 2 Democrats, Hank Johnson of Georgia and Alexandria Ocasio Cortez of New York, voted present. Oh, and that is surprising because Alexandria Ocasio Cortez has been really on the forefront of this issue. And she also criticized Tulsi Gabbard's 2019 present vote during Boss Baby's first impeachment. And so she said, our job is to lead. Why are we voting present? And then she votes present. Now, AOC obviously has a lot of thoughts on this. She put out an entire statement. It was very, very, iOS notes. A note to our New York 14 constituents from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. It was quite long. She says that she thought the process was unjust. She says that there wasn't meaningful consultation with her community. She wasn't able to have that consultation. She said it started getting like very hateful. They're vitriolic. It wasn't clear what she meant in the statement by like who was doing the hate, who said what. But I think we can have a discussion about what we imagine happened. I want to read you 2 parts of this. AOC also said that she wept. At the complete lack of care for human beings that are impacted by these decisions. I wept at an institution choosing a path of maximum volatility and minimum consideration for its own political convenience. And I wept at the complete lack of regard I often feel our party has to the most vulnerable and endangered members and communities, because death threats and dangerous vitriol we'd inevitably receive by rushing such a sensitive charge and under-considered vote weren't worth delaying it for even a few hours to help us do the work necessary to open a conversation of understanding. Okay. I'm not going to lie. Still a little vague on the deets there. But she says, the damage of the careless process created a real spillover effect in our community. It created a sense of panic and horror among our community who otherwise would engage thoughtfully in these discussions. It fueled the discussion to devolve into a point where it became clear that the vote would be a risk of severe devolution of the good faith community fabric that allows us to responsibly join in a struggle for human rights and dignity everywhere, from Palestine to the Bronx and Queens. In short, the rush of the vote, no matter how many hours, was threatening to tear our community apart and permanently close the doors that we desperately needed to open in order to progress. Okay, also vague, but basically she wasn't able to get her constituents on board, it sounds like. That some of them had a lot of reservations, and that makes sense given the fact that like there is a huge Israel lobby, pro-Israel constituency in New York. That is known, right? It's very difficult to excel as a politician in the New York area without very much being beholden to the Israeli lobby, beholden to a far right Jewish community. I'm not saying that the entire Jewish community is as pro-occupation and pro human rights violations as some, but those with money are. That's my read on what all that means. But of course, people on the left are hella pissed. People on the right, I was screenshotting some of these tweets. They're just super mean and mad. FAOC, of course, she's going to say this because she's anti-Semitic. But NATO, what was your read on that as you slowly drift away from view into a basement and bongo drums?
We're talking. I'm a comedian being asked to talk about Israel. Goodbye. No,
later. I want to get booked. Don't kill my career.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, here's what I really wrestle with. Okay, so obviously Israel's an apartheid state, and fuck them. And the U.S. gives lots of money to them. I feel like AOC's statement was not particularly helpful word salad because it didn't explain why she voted present instead of no.
Yes.
With Ilhan Omar and Rashia Talib and Ayanna Pressley. And it's like, what do you, like, it's going to tear the community apart. Like, and will open the door to, I'm not convinced that, she made it sound like this is the thing that if we get this wrong, the people in Astoria will never get justice. And I've been to Queens, I've been to Long Island City, like I've been to Astoria, I've been to Jackson Heights. The Iron
Dome is not number one on their issue bucket list or whatever.
When you're there
if it's against the NYPD, they'll be like, oh hell yeah, that sounds tight.
That sounds tight. You're
we could use one of those.
What are you concerned about? Well, I can't get to work because the fucking subways are flooded and there are rats like eating my children. Okay, but what about the Iron Dome though? So
is that like an anti-rat contraption, or
can I put it on my kid? So to protect them from being stopped and frisked by NYPD. So there's that. But then it's like, so then I have seen a lot of criticism of the left and people on the left being like, AOC's position was cowardly, but it's, here's the thing that I feel like a lot of the left doesn't understand. Let me make my face real big to deliver the point.
Please.
I'm just going to lean into it. Is governing is hard, man. And so is it like, what did you say the vote was? It was like 7,000 to 9. Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. It was 420 to 69, brah. No, it was, so with that kind of like lopsided margin, does it okay, so she says no and still loses and it doesn't matter and it doesn't move anything forward and it doesn't change anything about the outcome. It's just like talk about performative politics. So I sort of I understand the critique that if you're going to take, if you're going to take a principled position, take a principled position. But there's just so many votes that go through these people and, that they have to take on. And, and it's all this, it's so convoluted of the amendment and the rider and the amendment of the main bill. And so then you don't like the amendment, but you like the main bill. And so you don't vote on how do you vote, so it's it's all a fucking mess. So I just I have a hard time getting too upset about her choice, given that there is no scenario that affects the outcome one way or another.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For sure. And it is exactly. It's a symbolic vote. It's a protest vote. And honestly, given the history, these votes are usually unanimous, right? So even having 9 Congress people voting against it is progress on this issue, which is sad to say, but I think we do have to remember, as for those of us who, have been working around and fighting for, and actually some people who've been living in occupation, but around the Palestinian human rights, it's it feels like such a no-brainer, but we have to remember that it's not a no-brainer in Congress. It's a third rail issue. You get hammered for this issue. And AOC has spoken out about it. And I think, it's bizarre to me though, because in that statement, it was any of her constituents who are super pro-Zionist, let's say, they're going to read that and be oh, you are against the occupation. Why are you, you know what I mean? They're not, she's not currying favor with anybody with the present vote. So I don't understand.
I don't know. You and I have talked about this before on the show. Newer listeners may have to go all the way back to the live episode that we did with Matt Lieb and Noah Barrows Friedman about this.
Yeah.
But like, I believe that the Israel lobby is all smoke and mirrors. Like, you know, as a, like, there's this perception, people believe that there's a lot of Jewish money in support of the Israel lobby. And I think that to some extent the Israel lobby relies on anti-Semitic stereotypes in order to get people that they have more money than they do. But you know what I mean? Like, people are like, oh my God, these annoying Jews are going to be outside my office and they're going to be whining and they're going to argue me to death and it's going to be exhausting and they have a lot of money. And so it's just easier not to fucking deal with them.
No. First of all, I know you're joking, but I'm also like, no, dude. Like, I don't want to flirt with that because we know that's not true, right? I don't know. I think we also have to be careful. You know, we can't say like Jewish money versus like the Israeli lobby, right? That's what like Ilhan Omar gets hammered for. So I don't know. I'm just
right, but my point is that like I think it would be difficult. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it would be difficult to pinpoint an election that was won or lost because of the Israel lobby.
Well, actually, someone in the comments said, Gator on YouTube says, now audit Nina Turner's loss. And that actually is an election where you might be able to point to the Israeli lobby because there was a whole lot of money from pro-Israel groups running ad after ad, millions of dollars poured into that race. And she didn't win. She did not lose by that much, right? It was something like 40,000 votes, not a lot, winnable. But with that amount of money funneling in, and that's where you get to sort of, that's the rub of like, the power of something like the Israel lobby, which is, look, here's a random congressional seat in fucking Ohio. We're pouring everything in there because they don't want that 420-9 to be, 419-10. They're deathly afraid of that, even though everyone's protecting their asses on this. So I hear you, but I also think ultimately, and I think right wingers have even said this, and I don't think they're wrong. AOC's gunning for Schumer's spot. And like, if she's got to at least handhold some of the people who are scared about her positions on Palestine. She's got to handhold them if she wants to be a senator. In New York, you got to do that. So I get it. I'm not proud of her on this. I don't think it's make or break. I don't think she's like a fraud squad, but I understand it. We got to move on. So Charmed Chaos, a few comments. Charmed Chaos on Arizona. I'm in Arizona, and this is an old grift here, nothing more. Oh, God. I feel like there's a whole Vox explainer of the history of audits in Arizona. Willie Gus, what's up on Twitch? Outcome is not the point. Yeah, exactly. Outcome is not the point of that audit. We will see in Texas. Texas is funny because they're already passing all the voter suppression laws. So it's like, homie, like you're already doing it. You don't need to prove anything. Like, what else do you want to do? On AOC, Vitingale on YouTube, weeping doesn't get ish done. Votes due. Disappointed with the present vote. Right on. Trans Vampire Carmilla on Twitch. She's done some brave things. I'll wait and see on this. Absolutely. It's one of those, it's a Sisyphean task when it comes to Palestine, and we got to keep pushing. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.